All right, excellent. Thank you everyone for coming to our session today. This is the second session that we're repeating this week because we had a lot of people on Tuesday and we had a lot of feedback as well. So if you're coming here the second time, you should be seeing some new things. So this is Mastering Lightning Community Development. My name is Mike Katolka. I'm an enterprise team lead at CRM Science. We are a Salesforce development consultant firm, and we work with enterprise clients. We build AppExchange apps for companies that need them. And Yad, I guess you are.
Hey, I'm Yad. I also work for CRM Science. I'm also an enterprise team lead. You may know me from various Texas user groups, and if you are from Texas, feel free to connect, and we'll talk about that later.
Hi, this is Vishwanath. I'm a lead developer in Salesforce Community Cloud. Good to see you all.
Okay, so the goals are to walk away with an idea on how to build a community, how to work with components, how to plug them into Community Builder, cool things that you can do, and basically how to get it set up to deploy. Got to have this slide in there. Just don't make purchasing decisions based on newer features. We may talk about only on existing features. So let's get into our agenda. We're going to do a small kind of community cloud overview. It's a very large platform. It's almost like the Salesforce platform. Community cloud is huge. So we'll do an overview, but we're going to really kind of talk about the builder today. We'll look at community workspaces, the builder itself, standard and custom components. And so for the overview, connect basically just means you're connecting partners, customers, and employees to your org, with each other, with your internal staff, in any which way. So any of the templates you can basically set up to coexist these types of people. It's personalizable, which is brandable. You can completely customize the look and feel like any other website out there in the world, or you can take standard template look and feel and go with that. It's mobile ready. So it works for all different form factors. The Community Builder lets you preview in many different screen sizes. It is integrated with your org. This is really important. This is really what makes the Community Cloud stand out versus building something like a WordPress website, something that's outside of the Salesforce platform. It is literally just like going from Classic to Lightning experience. Page layout that you're seeing in the builder is going to be very connected. It's not a separate system, so just keep that in mind. It's very secure. There's many different sessions about community cloud security that you can look up after Dreamforce. And it's moderated, just meaning you can keep tabs on the kind of chatter going on within the org, user adoption, that type of thing. Templates we're going to see just in a second here. And chatter is a really big portion just to keep people engaged in the community and learn off of each other. So we're going to go into a demo here. It's going to be two parts. On the left-hand side, the first part is going to just be very basic. How do we create a community? What does it look like out of the box? And on the right-hand side, we'll kind of show you what it looks like after you've spent a month or 2 months or longer building it out, either very, very custom or like you see there, pretty similar to Nepili, look and feel. So actually, let's go back one and get into the first part of the demo. So under setup, you're going to search for communities. So we have a bunch of communities here. If you want to create a new one, you click the button there. That will bring up this page where you can browse the few templates that are available. So what we're going to choose is the Nepili template for customer service. You can look at the features of any of these. Just match them up to your needs, basically. It's going to be pretty obvious, partners for partners, customers for customers. But let's go ahead and create a name here. Test community sounds good. You would potentially put a suffix to your URL here. If you have multiple communities, you have to do that. That is really key. Once you hit create there, you're going to land on the Community Workspaces page. This is a newer page, newer look and feel. And I think Vis was going to talk about this here and take over for a little bit.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike. So Community Workspace is a one-stop solution for administrating, managing, and monitoring your content. You have multiple settings here through which you can measure the success of the community and look for overall health. Like you can moderate, and you can create topics, and you can do many administrative related tasks here. Let's quickly go through the tile which is like builder. On clicking this tile, you will taken to the community builder. So community builder, think like it's like Visualforce tool or editor through which you can style and brand your community. You can customize the pages, add and remove the components, preview what you are developing, and also do so many other advanced settings. So at the end, community is nothing but a web application, right? Like it's a portal which contains multiple pages. So we have something called a page manager through which you can manage all the pages, and it can encapsulate all the properties of those pages. Like if on clicking on this little icon there on the top left, you get something like a panel which shows all the inbuilt pages which you get once you create a community. So like we created a community based off an API template, and these are the pages you get it, like home, error, feed detail, topic detail pages, and object pages like groups, reports, and also you get few generic record pages. So you can click on this tiny icon here, which brings up properties of the pages, like what is the home, what is the title, URL, and whether this page has public access or not, whether this can be used without login or not. And you also can specify the layout of this page. So to go through the page, just click on this icon, and it will take you to the page in the builder. So this is what the out-of-the-box default home page looks like. You can just preview by clicking this icon. And if you see, the page has divided into some regions, okay, and some UI elements are dropped here. Like, what are these? These are nothing but components. So what are components? So components contain some reusable code, and they're like reusable units inside the application. You can think like component like a UI widget which you can drag and drop and put on your pages. So a component can range in granularity from single line of text, or it can be a complex one, querying your Salesforce database, getting the records, doing a lookup, and showing on the user. It's up to you, sky's the limit. And if you click on this icon, so we have given some out-of-the-box components, standard components, which you can use for pages. For example, there are components like HTML editor, tabs, tile menu, and all these things are categorized. Like all the content-related components are under content area, and fields and files rated under feeds and files categories. So at any point of time, either you can click on the component, let me drag a simple component like welcome HTML editor. You can drag and drop the component. You can configure it based on like whatever needs you have. And you can quickly preview the component after making the changes. Okay, let me show a advanced component. I think most of you know about visual workflows. So we have a component called flow. I had dragged and dropped here, which will show up. And currently we're now in draft mode. So once you click publish, those changes will get published. And you can visit the community by clicking this link. Now your home page, out of the home page has a new component called flow. It's personalized, so it is showing your first name. And the moment you click yes, you can make some selections. And based on the selections, you get a text. You can go back and you can click some other selection and you get a different text. So this is how you can customize the standard pages by configuring the existing components or adding and removing it. For example, I don't like this component, I can quickly remove it and I can preview it like this. This is how your end users see it. And if you want to have more customized experience, if you want to have more control, then you can click and create a new pages, and which brings you two options, standard page and object page. So standard page is like a blank layout, a blank page which is given to you. You can specify the layout and place what are the components you want. And you can also specify something called object pages. If you click it, it will allow to expose your Salesforce object inside the community. For example, I want account, I can click account and click create, and it automatically creates 3 out-of-the-box pages like detail, list, and related list pages for your account object, which has the default record components. Let's quickly go back and create a blank page. You can select the a content layout. So content layout defines like what is the portion of the layout this takes. For example, you can specify full width column, which takes a full width of the page, or you can specify 2 columns, which divides the page into 2 columns, but in 2:1 ratios. Let's give a name to the page and click create. So the moment you click create, it creates a custom page in the background. And now you can place what are the components you want. For example, if you have a headline component, you can drag and drop and paste the headline component. And like you can configure, give some text. And what are the changes you make, right, that gets reflected directly here. And you can right away preview to see like, oh, this is my intended output. And you can, like, how people can access this new page. So you can quickly create a navigation menu item. Say my page. Yeah, and you can search the page, but the page won't be available because you have created the page, you haven't published the changes. So after creating the page, publish the changes so that that page appears in the navigation menu and end users can navigate to that page. Now let's creating a new page. My page, and if you see that my demo page is already populated here because you have published the changes. Click publish, there you go. So once you refresh your page, you'll be having a new menu item through which your end users can navigate to this page. This is the new component which I add. So similarly, you can add any number of components you want for this page. And the other important aspect of the community builder is branding. So through branding, you can change the look and feel of your community. So for example, like I don't like this blue color buttons and the gray color navigation. So if you want to change this to meet your organizational needs, you can click on the action color. Let's say I wanted a theme community, change it. And you can also change the color. Let me bring it green. And you can change the text color. Select dark green, you can change the navigation background. Okay, so you can make the changes here, and you can also select some fonts for primary and header, and then you can make all the changes and you can preview it. So what are the changes you make, right? It's currently in draft version, but you can see it. Looks like this is not a nice thing to look, right? Like red and black. Yeah, I'm not the nice UI designer, so please follow your designer principles and your designer's guidance, or else your pages will look like this. And there's something called page structure, so that you can see the overall page, like what components are there in the template, what components are there in the content area, and you can select them, change properties, or you can delete them directly. So there are very other important section on some settings under that icon, settings icon. For example, general. So this is the place where you find like what is the type of the template you have chosen for the community, what is the title which is given to it, and you can also make the community as public. That means like you can select this option and you can make the community public so that people can watch the public pages without logging in. And there is also link to user profile, wherein you can specify, okay, what are the permissions, what are the things you can give for the guest users, nothing but public pages, page views. And there is something called theme. So theme is a very important concept. So theme controls the overall page appearance. For example, when you preview, okay, so theme is the outer shell content. So whatever we talked till now is about the page content. The theme is the outer shell. For example, the header, the navigation menu, search, the profile menu, all this constitute as a theme. And if you see whatever the page you navigate, right, the theme is same. The theme is not getting changed. You can click on the topics, it will go to topic detail page, but the theme is same. So if you want to have a custom theme, custom outer shell appearance, then you can create a custom theme and you can assign a layout type to it, and you can assign the newly created theme to that page. For example, I can create a page and I can specify newly created theme to this page, so that whenever user navigates to that page, right, they'll get a new look and feel. And there are some other advanced settings, like you can specify for Google Analytics tracking ID so that you can better track your page views. You can also edit your header markup. Like for example, if you want to include some HTML meta tags like favicon or search engine tags, you can put it here. And like any latest upgrades to the templates, you get it here. Please do upgrade. And there is something called developer. Okay, this is the place where, let's say, you have developed a fantastic community. You have created custom pages, created new components. You made all the customization, and now you want to distribute. So you can export this as a solution and create a managed package out of it, which can be distributed internally or externally via developer exchange and app exchange. Yeah, let's talk more about the custom components, and Ad will take over from me.
Thanks, Vishva. Appreciate that. Mike, if you wouldn't mind pulling up the builder for us.
No problem here.
So Community Builder, it's a tool that we just got an excellent introduction from Vishva about, but it really has me thinking about something else. And I look around, this is my 5th Dreamforce, worked a lot in users groups. This is Community Builder. This Dreamforce, this session, this is a chance for you all to introduce yourselves to each other, walk away with a real connection, and I think that's really going to be your best way to learn. So I'm going to do kind of a crash course on Lightning component development. We're going to go into the nitty-gritty, but it's going to be quick. It's up to you to make that learning sink and really stay with you. So just a show of hands really quick, how many people have done Lightning component development? That's great. And if you wouldn't mind keeping it up, and everybody just take a look around. These are your resources. And I'm here to ask you guys something. There's 2 things I'm asking for you. If you wouldn't mind in this Dreamforce making it a point to connect with at least 2 people, it's going to be hugely influential for you. I can guarantee it. These sessions, I think they're great, especially ours. But the connections that you take away from this are going to last a lifetime, especially in your career doing Salesforce development, administration, being an end user. That's what really matters. So if you guys can do that, that'd be awesome. The second thing is, wherever you live, make sure you know where the users group is. Know when they meet. It's really easy to find. I can tell you about that later. But that connection is really going to keep bolstering your learning. So that being said, happy to give you the crash course. So Mike, if you wouldn't mind deleting that welcome to Dreamforce.
Beautiful. Yep.
It is just striking.
Take that away.
And then we've got custom components appear on this menu on this right side. You would actually also see App Exchange components there, manage components. It's pretty easy to drag and drop them all in. So if you wouldn't mind dragging, dropping the hello name.
Yep. That there. Okay.
Perfect. So just like most professional communities, we have a nice welcoming message like sup brah. And, it's pretty useless, right? We've got static text appearing there. That's actually something I coded in a component. But what we want here is to really show community. Community is tied into your Salesforce database. Communities is not some external product. Communities is part of Salesforce. It's an alternate UI to present to your users, alternate mechanism of logging in. So what we're going to do is replace that functionality with some code that's going to look at the user, actually get some information there, and present it. So if you wouldn't mind pulling up the developer console. Developer console is one of many choices you have as far as IDEs. You can code in Sublime, Illuminated Cloud, Visual Studio Code, lots of options. Advantage of using this is it's right in your browser. I'm just pulling up somebody else's computer, and I can go and look up exactly what I was working on last in the browser. Don't have to worry about configuration settings. Maybe that's where the advantages end. But apart from that, it's a pretty good thing to use. So as you can see, we've got the sup brah. Let's get rid of that. It's just unprofessional, Mike. I don't know how you let that in there. So if we look at the top, what we see is an Aura handler. We're going to have Aura handlers for a variety of things that we call events. The most important event in this context is what to do when the page loads, or actually what to do immediately before the page renders to the user. So what we want to do is to go and get that data that we need to present to the user. So we have something called a doInit action, which is in our controller. C dot denotes a controller action. So what we want to do is just go get that data. So Mike, if you wouldn't mind going to the controller in the bundle, you see that he just navigated the right-hand side. Lightning component bundles are comprised of a variety of subcomponents. What this does is compartmentalizes our development process, keeps things organized. And the way I like to think of it, especially in this context, you've got these wires. You've got various pieces of data that appear in the front end, and you kind of bundle them together in the controller. It keeps it neat and organized. You might see that even if you can't quite read that, it doesn't look like it's doing much. You see helper dot, helper dot, helper dot. All this is doing is routing your flow to what does the heavy lifting, which is what we put in the helper. Helper methods are able to call each other. They're able to go recursively. They're able to call the controller, the Apex side. They do the hard work. And that organization will go a long way in more complicated examples than this. So as you can see, we've got load data at the top. The standard notation for this is calling a controller action on the Apex side. So once again, we're going to see the C dot notation. We're going to see C dot get username, which corresponds exactly to the method we'll see in the Apex class. We have the option of setting parameters. It's commented out because I don't need one. My objective here is just to say hello Mike or whatever the user's name is. So what we're going to do is once action.setCallback fires immediately after Apex has done what it's supposed to, return whatever value that we've set, and then it goes and sets something in our component. So just following the flow, Mike, if you wouldn't mind pulling up the Apex class, we can look at get username. Very boilerplate. We're just returning userinfo.getName, not wasting our time with a query. Very standard stuff. Just to illustrate what you could do, I have a function below that we've not really implemented fully. You can pass in parameters. You can do SOQL queries. This is all in your Salesforce database. I can't stress that enough. You can do various logic. You can trigger other things. You can do DML, go ahead and update a record based on inputs. All of that stuff is certainly possible. We're going to stick with a very easy use case right now in the interests of rapidly running out time. So if you wouldn't mind going back to the helper. You see on the set callback, we've got a response coming in. What we're going to do is take that value that we responded with, which was userinfo.getName, and apply it to an attribute that we have on the component, v.username. V is going to denote things on the component itself. So if you wouldn't mind pulling up the component to see where that wire leads back and pulls the data, we've got an attribute on line 9, username. It's a string. That's just going to get set. So yeah, go ahead and uncomment that out. So now we're going to expect it to say hello username. What is the username? We'll see. So just go ahead and reload thing.
There we go.
Hello, Mike Science. Science is his last name for the record. Great, so very simple example. Hopefully that illustrates something. I've got a couple more that I want to show. It's going to go a little bit quicker. Mike's got an awesome demo that he wants to show you. So pull up the component again if you don't mind. So go ahead and uncomment 15 and 18. So what I want to show you is just kind of the interplay of different things here. There's a lot of stuff that's interwoven here. We've got the component, which talks to the controller, which talks to the helper. The helper has the option to do all its work by itself or reach into the server side, talk to Apex. So it's a very different paradigm from Visualforce development, if you guys are familiar with that. A lot of things may be familiar to you. You're using the Aura framework, perhaps that's reminiscent of Visualforce framework, but a lot of similarities end there. You're using JavaScript in an entirely different way. I'd say it's more akin to using JavaScript remoting. You're handling a lot of the work on the client side. A lot of the attributes are getting stored on the client locally, and then you only call the server when necessary. And the advantage of that is things are really snappy. You really can load things quickly. They respond quickly. You click something, it renders and shows you something just like that. A lot of times in Visualforce, you have it talking to the server. There's like that 1 second delay, which these days is just too long, right? So just to illustrate that, we've got a couple buttons in there. So I've got a button just directly on there, log something. All it's going to do is just write into the console log. That's just going to illustrate that we can do JavaScript. So if you wouldn't mind pulling up the controller, in the bundle. So log something is a controller method, as you can see. Log something is going to call the helper, and the helper is simply going to do console.log. This is not the log you were looking for. And then, yeah, if you wouldn't mind going ahead and showing that really quick.
Yep, save this here. We should have it.
So the first button, log, pull up the console. So go to Tools, or More Tools, Developer Tools. And we should be good, barring all those errors, which have nothing to do with me, I promise. Press log and see what happens. This is not the log you're looking for. So simple JavaScript. We can do JavaScript we want. I'd say if you're trying to manipulate the DOM, then you're probably supposed to be using some Aura stuff. But otherwise, feel free to use JavaScript as you expect. The next thing, go ahead and press that while we're here. So this is actually doing the same thing, but in a different way. This is in a nested component. While it renders and it looks all in line, we're actually seeing a component within a component. So if you wouldn't mind pulling up the bundle one last time.
Mm-hmm.
And the component, please.
Components.
So you see a nested component there. We're able to pass in attributes. I'm not using it right now, but you're able to pass in attributes. It will set the same way you see here. So if you could pull up the hello clickable component, you're going to have to go to File, and then Open Lightning Resources. And it will be there in a case-sensitive way. Why are you so sensitive? So hello clickable component. Go to the component, and that's all. We've got the button there, pretty simple, but we have the key difference here. We're communicating with an event. When we're all on the same level, that one component, things are fine. You can call the methods in your controller, which then talk to the helper. But when you're in a different component, you have to use an event. Event tie everything together. Remember I mentioned the Aura handler at the beginning. This is just a more custom event that you can have that allows components to talk to each other. Why even build components? Because you're going to have a lot of times where there's really repeated, reused code, and you're not going to want to maintain that. You're not going to want to have to make the changes to each one every time. So it's inevitable that you have a repeated component. The key is to choose the right times you use that, and when you do, to have it do the proper communication with its parent component or to other parts of the app. And we use that through the event model. So if you look at controller, we're going to quickly see what that's involved. We get an event, and then pass a parameter if necessary. Then we fire the event. Again, please feel free to take a look at trailheads and docs to go deeper. And then one last thing, if we go to the original hello name component, you'll see the handler, hello name event, line 6. All it's going to do is call the log something function in the controller, which we showed. And yeah, so before I hand it off to Mike, I wanted to point out a couple things. Line 1 implements forced community available for all page types. So that's a little bit of a gotcha. You get that included when you create something, or at least you get a UI to select that when you create it through the developer console. If you want that component to show up in Builder, where we saw on the left-hand side, that list of components, you're going to want to select that. There's different contexts in which you can put Lightning components, and definitely for us, we're doing Lightning communities, but maybe you want it in LEX, maybe you want it in a tab, etc. Yeah, last thing before I hand it off to Mike. So I just want you to remember that communities is definitely a part of your org. It's really about providing a custom experience for perhaps your customers. Maybe they log in, maybe they see a lightweight version, very selective data. And the point of this is really, as I was trying to bring up as a theme, is connection, connectivity. So we can do that to facilitate connection between community members. We've got an amazing example coming up with what Mike did for one of our clients that really illustrates the power of that. And yeah, Mike, you want to take it from here? And one last thing, sorry. Hope you guys take your promise to me seriously. Meet 2 people and stay in touch with them and find your user group. I guarantee you, it's how we learned, all of us from scratch once long ago to where we are now and where we will be in the future. That's the key. So I hope you guys stick with that promise you silently gave me.
Thank you, Yad. All right, so we're going to switch over to another community that's built out. This is a sandbox, so this is something that is in production somewhere. And it's for the company called Acts Retirement Communities. They make up 22 different facilities up and down the East Coast. There are a total of 9,000 residents that are living in those facilities. And let me zoom out here a little bit, just so you can kind of get a feel for what they do. As you can see here, totally different campuses all around the country. And so they wanted to build this community for residents to be able to come in here, not only talk with each other, search for each other, but also make requests. Requests are, my toilet is not working, I have a light bulb out that I definitely need to be able to see at night. that type of thing. But it's wrapped in this engagement sort of engine, this community. So let's go into Builder here. And I want to go to the home page. So I'm going to navigate, instead of navigating this way, because when you click here, you actually get the navigation menu editor. I'm just going to go to the home page this way and talk about home page variations. That's a more advanced feature. But when you are editing your pages and you might want to come up with different versions of something, as opposed to the version you see here, you can create variations. So this listing is showing a bunch of different versions of what we were trying to demo to the client. Very, very easy for me to just fire up all these different variations, flip through them, and the client says, I like number 4. So that's what we did here. I'll try to pick one. Hopefully it looks a little different. It happens pretty quickly. There we go. And this is a good example. The featured and discussions tab that we saw in the standard Napili template was blank. There was no data. This is using featured topics. Real images, real articles are behind all of that. So that's what happens when you populate the knowledge side. So let's switch over to another tab here called Directory. This is the person directory at Acts. So what's unique about this one, this is actually a Visualforce page showing inside of a Lightning community. So that's using a Visualforce component, which is new. Viswa's team actually worked on that, I believe. So that is a new feature right here. You drag it on the page, you pick the Visualforce page, you make sure you have Apex class permissions, Visualforce permissions set for the profile of the sysadmin and your user, your end user, resident, profile, community user. So that is just a key tab to show. Requests is basically the same. It's a Visualforce page, but you can see if that loads quick enough in the Wi-Fi here. Let's switch over to the All Communities tab again. This is a nice page with a lot of images on it, but it didn't look that way. So this is actually, I'm going to show you a list here in the page list because there's 3 pages. Viswa was showing you before. Object pages create 3 pages. Detail, list, and related list. That's what was generated when I created a custom object detail page. And so these 3 things were created. And before, it looked like that. It looked like a record list, which is a lot like a list view inside of Lightning Experience, or a list view inside of Classic even. It was based on the X community object, so there you go. That was what it looked like. Residents don't want to see that. They want to see images. You want to divide it by region. That's what we did. So when we first saw it, it looked like this. We just deleted it, did some Lightning development that we saw earlier, and voila, you drag it on the page. This is our custom list. So another thing that's pretty important, all of these pages are editable. I mean, you can see there's a lot of pages here. And you may look and like, oh, there's an error page, there's a messages page. They're not locked. You can modify them. You can delete everything on the page and put whatever you want there. So you could even navigate to the My Profile page, which is basically like your Chatter profile page, and take everything off of here and do it all by yourself if you wanted to. Everything's split up in different components as well. So I wanted to point that out. Let's go into the full view mode and talk about a few more things here that are kind of standard. Topics are your standard way to sort of divide the knowledge articles. There's hundreds and hundreds of knowledge articles here, but residents want to see it broken down by category. So that's what you can use in community administration to do that. So the topics are there. Let's go to groups. Groups are chatter groups. And chatter groups are, again, this is another list view situation. In production, they have hundreds and hundreds of groups. It's too hard for a person who lives at one campus to see groups just within their campus. You can't actually edit this list of views. So we needed to do something else. And that solution is basically using a records-related list here. This is a standard feature out of the box of groups. So take a look at that. That's from a couple years ago. And let's switch over real quick for the sake of time. We're going to look at one community, which I'm going to choose Heron Point here. and show you a, oops, let me go forward or backwards. Back to Heron Point and scroll down. So there's a lot going on this page. There's a lot of custom Lightning components here. This looked like a standard object page layout. We deleted it. We dragged everything we wanted on here to give the user what they're looking for. So these are Lightning components we designed, but they're iframes. They're iframes connecting to external URLs, which you can do. Just make sure you put your remote site settings in there. On the right-hand side is a list of knowledge articles. This is custom. And I'm going to go into the presentation to basically show you how we did that. But when you click through them, you can see what a knowledge article looks like in the way that we styled it. That's a very interesting article choice, but I thought it was pretty neat. Online dating for over 50 and what it means and people's experience on how to find love. But that's a real article, and so let's switch over to our presentation here. I'm going to present again and try to give you guys time for questions. So we saw the list of custom components already. As you can see, there's a couple managed package ones that we've installed there at the bottom, and you can search for more with that button there. We needed a custom Lightning component because this is an object page. The standard topics listing of articles has no idea what our custom object is. There's no idea how to filter the list. We do. So we created a Lightning component with attributes. We can populate it with a custom field that we know has the value. So Heron Point matches the Heron Point on the page. We find that topic. We show the articles. This is just an example of some code. This is all going to be posted after the session. But you can see all the attributes. We can repeat through the articles. And then here are basically proving that you can tap into knowledge. You can tap into topics and knowledge article versions and pull the information back to get the URL. And so our next steps for you would be to go to Trailhead, to talk to people, look up documentation. All of these links here are very useful. And there's a new trail, actually, for custom themes. So that is basically what Viswa was talking about. Check that one out if you're hungry for badges. And that is it. We are done with our session. So thank you so much for coming. We'll have a few more questions, which you will be coming up to the microphone in the middle.
Trailhead
I'll bring that up while you have questions. Sure.
Yeah, if anybody else has
Thank you so
questions,
much.
feel free to come up to the mic. We're going to get hustled out of here in 2.5 minutes, so meet us around here if you want to talk as well. Happy to answer anything. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I've got a quick question. In Lightning, do you use JavaScript libraries much anymore, third-party JavaScript libraries?
Yes, you do, but probably not all of them. So there's a bit of a security concern in some of them. There's something called Lightning Locker Service, which makes you have to make sure that that particular library is compliant. So a lot of them, as far as philosophy goes, they say is redundant. Anything that you should be accomplishing, like with jQuery UI, for instance, a very commonly used one, should be able to be done with your various Lightning component stuff. But maybe you have something that's more of a different use case. So certainly you can, but you have to get through that hoop of it being verified to be usable by Locker Service. An example of that, I ran into some issues trying to do reCAPTCHA, like recapture pictures when you're signing in with something. Not sure where that is right now. I ended up kind of reverting to using Visualforce and including that in Lightning Community to get that done.
Mm-hmm. All right, next question. Anybody? And we'll be outside at the end here, so if you have trying to think of a question, we'll be right out there.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.